everybody. Welcome to our channel. First of all, I would like to wish everyone stays safe and sound in this pandemic. And also, I would like to thank all the frontline heroes for the contribution. And truly, from the bottom of my heart, you're definitely the most beautiful people in the world. Today, I would like to talk to you about that shocking news from RTE on the 3rd of April. Title was, some new PPE, quote, not fit for purpose, quote, medical staff. From the photo they inserted in the article that, well, it's not hard to see, there's a blue gown and it doesn't have the full length of arm coverage and about 3/4 at most. And my first impression is, wow, this is not going to protect anyone from any virus, and it's definitely not good enough. At the same time, I do have my doubt now, how China messed this up like this. I mean, it's highly impossible, unlikely. So I did some digging and I found some pretty interesting stuff I'd like to share with everyone here. So these are a few photos that I found online, and the name I searched was disposable patient gown. So let's see how do they look like compared to the one we've seen from the RTE photo. Now, I want to clarify that I'm not implicating that the RTE was using the patient gown to make up story. Now, I'm just simply saying that let's have a look at these photos and do they have similarities, and we'll talk about this point later on in the video again. Let's just sort of memorize these photos and then let's move on. So quickly enough now, the HSE had a full briefing about this PPE that came from China on the 5th of April. Let's listen to it.
Another point I want to make before I just go to the items is that personal protective equipment is training in its use is really important. And so for staff who are caring for patients, having access to personal protective equipment that they have been trained with and that they're familiar with is really important. And so part of the question for us in terms of looking at the suitability of a product is related to its suitability for our healthcare system in terms of the familiarity and the ease with which people in our healthcare system would use it. The fact that it doesn't meet what we need for our healthcare system doesn't always mean that there's something wrong with the product. It may be that it just doesn't fit with the way our healthcare system works. So it's important to acknowledge that. Items that we have here is what we could call a coverall suit.
We have a number of masks. We also have some eye protection here. So a number of different items of eye protection, and we have a large supply of gloves and the gloves are suitable for use. We have another coverall suit here.
The video was very long and I have edited a little bit, but I did left the important part out for you to hear clearly.
We would have a reserved use for. So we do have a use for this, but we wouldn't use it for healthcare, for routine health, for general use in healthcare nor in general terms. So these masks are would be suitable for use. For example, if you had a person who was waiting to be assessed and they wanted to cover their nose and mouth for a short period to stop scatter from the nose or mouth, these masks do have a value, but we would prefer not to use these masks for general healthcare use because the ear loops are not our preferred method. But there are healthcare systems that do use these masks, so it's really important for us to say that that issue is that it's not our preferred product doesn't necessarily mean that there's anything that the product may not be a preferred product in other healthcare settings. And again, to emphasize that this is important both for healthcare workers and for patients, because infection prevention and control is about trying to protect both. Then outside of that order that we talked about, there were some other products that were provided by donation that we would not be happy to use, and so that we would not be issuing any further of these to the healthcare system. And this is an example of some of those products that we will not be issuing. So that's a brief rundown on what we've got. Again, the summary is that about 65% of the items are suitable for use, about 15% is usable, 20% of it has a value, but it's got a limited value, and then there's some of the material that we received outside of that order that we won't be using.
So that's the whole briefing, and I think it was enough said and well said that all the items that was purchased from the first batch that came from China, it was all okay. Everything has its own value and fit for their own purpose. And I guess people, there's an issue about the 20% of the medical masks that cannot be used in the medical department. But the HSA already said they were going to be used on the patients. So And they also said the principle is to protect both the frontline workers and the patients. So therefore I think these masks do have their purpose and they do fit their purpose. With that being said now, imagine my surprise when I see RTE publish another video about this conference, the same one we watched, and they have completely different conclusion. So let's hear it.
He also confirmed that 20% of the protective equipment that had been imported from China so far did not meet the requirements to be suitable for use in a healthcare setting.
So I think I will slow down a bit and let's break it down bit by bit, see what was happening from RT's first article and then the second video after the conference. What were they saying and what were they trying to tell people? That's the most important thing. So let me just bring up these photos again. We've already compared them before and now we're trying to think now. So this gown was not presented in the conference, so therefore this gown weren't the item that was bought. But highly possible it was from the items that was donated. But HSE didn't really list everything that was off that donated load. So let's say now, from RTE's evidence, the blue gown that came from Chinese batch, and so it must be one of the items that was donated. But we now here don't want to jump conclusion that the HSE had accidentally gave them patient gowns the blue gowns to the medical workers. Because we can't just say it, even though the evidence are highly likely, but sensationalism is a really bad thing. It's below me, so we're not saying that. But let's move on.
65% of the delivery, we said, meets our specifications. But this is a useful product to have in reserve. Masks that we would have a reserve use for. So we do have a use for this. That were provided by donation that we would not be happy to use.
No, I think the HSE cannot be more clear about that everything was purchased from China, from the first load. They all have their own value, they all fit their own purpose, whether it's for the frontline medical workers or either for the patients. And we cannot be more clear. But now my question is this, and I want you to think about this as well. Why the RTE didn't get the same message? Now, did they not understand, or they did understand, they just don't want to say it? We don't want to jump into that right now. But I want to listen to that part of the explanation again by the HSE in the conference. And let's be very, very clear now whether those 20% of the masks do have a purpose
for example,
or not.
If you had a
Let's
person
hear
who was
it.
waiting to be assessed and they wanted to cover their nose and mouth for a short period to stop scatter from the nose or mouth, these masks do have a value. But this is important both for healthcare workers and for patients, because infection prevention and control is about trying to protect both.
Now, I think we should be all very clear by now what was the real story about the PPE that came from China. I think let's put a cap on it right now. Now, I do want to raise another topic here now. This is something to do with there's a sense of hatred over the social media right after these reports from RTE towards the Chinese community or China itself. I want to show you some evidence here and then we talk about it. You see, I didn't really screenshot all the bad comments left under the media's posts. But for those one who wants to see them, you can go onto any Twitter or Facebook. You can read the comments yourself. And in my video, I just don't want to particularly read them out loud for you. But these are just a few quick evidence and presentations about what was said on the internet. You see, at this stage now, I think it's safe to say the RTE had made a mistake. They have misled the people, general public, to believe China was giving Irish people or Irish government the crappy PPE and endanger their frontline workers. You can see that attitude all over the internet. So I have to say this is hurting me a lot because I have been living in Ireland for 20 years My kids were born and raised here. They go to local schools and they have local friends. The Irish people are become our family, and we consider Ireland as the second hometown. So, and it is a hometown for my kids. So it hurts me to see that people, people who used to be friends and family now turns on our community, and the part of me now don't blame them, because the media plays a big part of it. RTE now plays a big part of it, because these misleading reports and posts, and I guess the purpose of me making this video is that I want to give you my point of view as a Chinese that has been living in Ireland for 20 years. In the end, I want to say, let's stand together and go against this virus and the pandemic and the crisis. I mean, that's the only way for us to go through this whole thing, instead of turning on each other by these, whoever. Okay, well, let's talk about other things in my next video. Thanks for listening. Bye bye.